Hello, students and family. Today we are going to be using the whole book approach to evaluate two books. But before we start, let's talk about what the whole book approach is. The whole book approach has students being an active participant throughout the whole story. That includes the art, design, production, paratextual, and textual elements. Paratextual elements are things beyond the art and the words in the story. There is a story leader who can be a parent, a guardian, or a librarian that helps walk the kids through the story by asking open-ended questions. We like to use the PEER model when asking open-ended questions. PEER stands for P, prompt, E, expand, E, evaluate, and R, repeat. You want to repeat the question that you asked and repeat what the student said. The whole book approach looks at trim size and orientation, jackets and covers, end paper, front matter, typography, and page design. We're going to use the whole book approach to look at two books. Our first book is called Madeline by Ludwig Bemelins, who is the author and the illustrator. This was published in 1939 by the Viking Press, and it won a Caldecott Medal. In this story, it's about a little girl who is very curious and is very courageous. And one day she gets very sick and has to go to the hospital, and it ends up it's her appendix. And all the little girls in her house come to visit her, and at the last night in the story, they are all crying because they want their appendix out too. Our next story we're going to look at is What the Road Said by Cleo Wade, and the illustrator is Lucy de Montecourt. This was published in 2021, and it won the New York's best-selling books. In this book, it's about a little girl who discovers a road, and she travels down that road and she asks a whole bunch of questions, and the road responds to her. In the end, she asks, "Where does the road lead me?" And the road told her it leads her to be a leader. So to start, let's look at trim size and orientation. To start, we're going to look at the trim size and orientation on Madeline. Trim size is the physical dimensions of the book, and the orientation is how the book is laid out. So for Madeline, our orientation is portrait, which means it's vertical. If it was to look like this, that would be landscape or horizontal. If you look, Madeline has a very large trim size. Why do you think this book has such a large trim size and is so tall? I think you're right. I also think it's because you can see this tower and it shows the long line of little girls. If we count them, there's 12 girls. I don't know if you know what this is, but this is the Eiffel Tower and it's in Paris. The book has this portrait in such a large trim size because it wants to elongate the tower. Now, let's look at what the road said. This has a portrait orientation as well, meaning it's vertical. Why do you think that it's vertical or portrait orientation? Why do you think that the author and illustrator chose it to be vertical? I think you're right. I think it's to show how long that this road is and how far it leads. Now, let's compare the two for trim size and orientation. If we look, we can see that the trim size of Madeline is a lot larger than the trim size of What the Road Said. And we mentioned that's because it wants to encompass this whole Eiffel Tower. Now, let's talk about jackets and covers. Now, if we open the book up, we can see the jacket of the book. With Madeline, it has a different image on the front and the back of the book. That's dual image art. This on the front, we can see it's a picture and they're in Paris and it's all the little girls walking towards the Eiffel Tower. On the back, it is the other stories that Madeline has. There's Madeline's Rescue, Madeline in the Bad Hat, and Madeline in the Gypsies. Let's look at the front of the book. What do you think's going on here? I think you're right. It looks like all these girls are dressed the same. They might be part of some group. I also noticed that there is a little girl holding the hand of this lady. I wonder why she's holding her hand. Why do you think? I think so too. We can also notice the Eiffel Tower. Maybe they're going there to travel. Maybe they're just going to look. What the Road Says also has dual image art, which means the front image and the back image are different. Can you make a connection between the two? I think so too. I see a road here and a road here. Let's see what it says. I said to the road, where do you lead? The road said, be a leader and find out. If we look at both of these books, they both have dual image art for their jackets. Let's talk about end papers now. Here is the end paper in the book of Madeline. End papers are pages that are glued to the inside of the boards of a hardcover book. If we look, this image is the same as the front as the back. End papers often give us clues about what happens in a story. What do you see happening here? You're right. I see the same girls that are on the front of the paper, all 12 of them with the same lady. I also notice that there's a man with a red hat. Do you see another person in the picture? That's right. There's a man in blue with a blue hat. Let's see what it says on the bottom. Place de la Concorde. I wonder where that could be. Let's look at what the Road said next. Here is the end paper in what the Road said. What do you notice? How do you think it relates to the title? You're right. I see a little bit of road here and there throughout the whole buildings. I wonder if someone will take that road. I see that there's ponds, kind of looks like a desert, and a beach, and some farmland. I wonder if someone's going to travel on that. Where do you think the story takes place looking at this photo? What makes you say that? I think you're right. I think it might start taking place in a city, but I think there might be a path that takes someone through different parts of the land. Now we're going to look at the front matter of both of the books. The front matter is the pages in the book that are situated before the pages of the main text. This can include a title page or a page that displays the title, author, illustrator, and publisher, a dedication page, and a copyright and publication information. On the verso side of the page or the left side of the page, we can see that it's just other books written by this author. On the recto page or the right side of the paper, we can see it's a full title page, which means it has the title, the author and the illustrator, and the publisher. Let's turn the page and see what we have next. On the verso side, this page has the copyright and publication information. This includes the creators, publisher, year, and Library of Congress data. On the recto side of the page, we see a half title page, which only displays the title without any byline, subtitles, or other publishing information. What do you notice about this title page? Who do you think that might be? Why do you say that? I think it also could be Madeline or the girl that has the name for the title of our story. Next, we're going to look at what the road said's front matter. Here, we can see it also includes a title page on the recto side saying what the road said, including the author, the illustrator, and the publication information. On this side, or the verso side, we can see that it has part of a dedication slide and it has the copyright and publication information. Let's see who it's dedicated to. This book is dedicated to my daughter, Memphis Love Kimberg, and her father, Simon. You two have forever changed my life and my heart. What do you notice about the title page? What makes you say that? I think you're right. I think this road, you can see pieces of the road in the title or the illustrations of these bubble letters. Next, let's talk about typography. Now we're going to look at typography in our text for Madeline. If we look, Madeline has a single and traditional typeface. Typeface is the specific design styles that give characters, the letters, numerals, and symbols their shape. But if we look, all the same kind of text, if we look at the very last page, we can see that the text gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. How should I read that as the words get smaller? Should I start getting my voice louder and louder and louder, or softer and softer and softer and softer? I think you're right. Now let's move on to what the road said. In What the Road Said, there's multi-typefaces in this book, meaning that the letters look different. Why do you think that is? It said, I said to the road, where do you lead? The road said, be a leader and find out. Why do you think this text is different than the other ones? I think you're right. It's because she's asking a question, and that's her voice. If we look throughout the text, we can see that the text is up in open spaces of the illustration, unlike Madeline's, which was situated at the very bottom of the page. Look, there's text on the road. Why do you think someone would put text on the road? I think you're right. It seems like we're traveling and the words travel on the road. If we look at this page, it has knockout type, which is white lettering in dark colored backgrounds. How would you describe what the words look like on this page? That's right. They're done where there's open illustration and we can still see the different type of typefaces here when she asks a question. Now we're going to look at page design. We can see that in the book Madeline, it has a single spread page design. This means that the pictures do not cross the gutter. The gutter is this seam between the verso or left side and the recto or the right side pages where the pages are bound together. We can see that there's also negative space in all of the pages. Negative space are areas that are unaccompanied by objects in the picture, and it helps define the illustration background. It kind of looks like this is in a frame. On this page, you can see that there are 4 pictures rather than 2. Why do you think that is? I think you're right. We can see that on this side, the man is calling on the phone and someone's answering, and then the girls watch as Madeline goes down. It kind of shows us a progress through time. How do you think that is? I think you're right. Now, let's look at what the road said. Now, let's look at what the road said. This text has a double spread, meaning that the picture crosses the gutter and takes up both pages of the book. This book also has a full bleed, meaning that the illustration extends to all edges of the paper. See how all the space is taken up, unlike Madeline, which had negative spaces and framed illustrations? Look at how the artist made sure nothing was in the gutter of the book. What choices did they make to accomplish this? You're right. They put the butterflies on the other edges, and they put the mountain on the recto side of the page. Let's look at another picture. How did the artist make sure not to put anything in the gutter of the page? That's right. They put the 2 animals on the verso side of the page. Nice work. Nice job being an active participant through our whole book approach between Madeline and what the road said. Now you can ask a grown-up to do the whole book approach with them. All they need to do is watch this video and they'll know exactly what kind of questions to ask you. Have a great day.